down into the details. And by the way, it takes software experts. You don't need agile experts. Washington is filled with consultants that consult on agile. You need software experts that know iterative and agile.
Okay. Alan, over to you next. So you know that the U.S. innovation ecosystem is one of our greatest levers of power. And I would like to understand, from your perspective, how is commerce addressing the supply chain vulnerabilities in that ecosystem? How can we ensure that we have a trusted supply of critical components coming in to the systems that we need for national security?
Yeah, good question. And in some places we're doing well, and in some places there's a lot of work to be done. So again, I'll start off with the CHIPS Act, great bipartisan law passed last year that Commerce has the great honor of executing, and bringing advanced chip manufacturing back to the United States is a critical part of having that innovative ecosystem. And, I think we need to be clear about where we're going to end up going with that. We will have assured supply. We will not have sufficient supply when we have all those fabs that are being funded right now, both in the private sector and with taxpayer dollars, up and operating. And, $52 billion seems like a lot of money. I'll tell a quick anecdote here. When Secretary Raimondo cold called me and asked me to come take this job, one of her enticements to me was, hey, $52 billion in CHIPS money. If we get that, that's a lot of money. You'll have a hand in helping to figure out what we're going to do with that. And I told her $52 billion, where I come from, where all of us come from, it's not a lot of money. It's okay money, but it's not a lot of money. And in the semiconductor space, $52 billion is not a lot of money at all, right? Each of these companies are spending close to that on, we're giving them 15%, if that, of their investment for fabs. So we're going to dole out $39 billion for fabs. That is only going to give us an assured level of supply, not a sufficient level of supply for the requirements of the United States or its allies. And you got to recognize again that, especially in the advanced space, the other place that those chips come from is all of Asia, right? So specifically Taiwan, of course, a chunk in Korea, all of which have volatility around them, which I don't have to explain to the audience sitting in front of me here. So it's critically important that we get that done. We've allocated about $30 billion of that so far, another $9+ billion to go. I will give the secretary awesome credit. I've given her background. She pulled in A++ team to do this, people who wanted to come work for the government because they wanted to come help, not people who needed jobs, people who were just doing this out of kindness in their heart with extensive background in industry. And I'll also say we're trying to stretch that dollar. So my colleague here, Dr. LaPlante, knows he gets an email from me at least once a month, if not more often right now, saying, hey, we'd really want to give more in this space. Can you help me out, Bill?
And Bill said,
we're working on it.
Well, one of the things Bill is doing, along with others, is actually try to take some of these things that are tied either directly to the CHIPS Act or very adjacent to it. And Alan and Heidi will know what I'm talking about. And embedding the management of those as close to possible as weapons system program offices, particularly the ones doing the cutting edge weapon systems like the Air Force RCO. I think if you put these things, these advanced chip activity that both Heidi's working on, as well as some of the stuff coming out of chips and related, put them right there with the people developing next generation weapon systems, they'll use them if they will. If we separate them and put them off in some lab somewhere, they might not see them. So we got to embed them right with the PEOs.
Well, go ahead.
Past that, legacy chips are as important as advanced cutting edge chips. They're in like everything.
Yeah.
We have deep concerns that, I'm impeding the Chinese capability, the PRC capability on advanced chips. not on legacy chips. The Chinese playbook is flood the market. Now that I have all these fab tools that I can't make advanced chips with, I'll just flood the market with legacy chips and drive the cost so low through Chinese subsidies that allied companies can't compete. So we're concerned with that. We're looking at all sorts of different ways of managing that, including we have a DPA survey out right now asking companies, where's your reliance? Who are you buying chips from? Last area I want to talk about is critical minerals, which plays into this. There again, my past, I used to have like file cabinets filled with critical mineral studies. My office at AT&L. They're probably in the office still, Bill. But we're working with allies because we are over-reliant on the PRC for our critical mineral supply chain. Not necessarily where the actual minerals come from, but certainly for the processing of those minerals. So, Congress wanted to pass the Critical Minerals Act. We need to look at how we can mine critical minerals, probably in a more sustainable method. We need to figure out how we can process them more. And then we need to work with our allies, both in Asia and Europe, and frankly, across the global south, where the Chinese are also working hard to secure those supply chains so that we can have assured supply of critical minerals and the processing thereof. One of the things that the Chinese have repeatedly done every time we put out a significant export control package is they'll put out some kind of control on a critical mineral, letting us know that they have cards to play too. So there's lots of work to be done in that space.
Lots of work, for sure. So we have challenges with chips. We have challenges with rare earth elements. And we have challenges, it seems, with just getting the resupply of weapons and systems. And Bill, your office put out in January of this year the first ever full-scale national defense industrial strategy. I'd really appreciate it if you could say a little bit about that. What were the key initiatives, goals? Why did you do it? What do you hope it will accomplish?
Yeah, we did it because we have the National Defense Strategy, which was put out in 2022, and in there it talked about the industrial base and an industrial strategy, and so it was a natural follow-on to write the industrial base strategy, and that's what the NDIS is, and it's centered around several important key items, which are not surprising. The workforce, supply chains, getting much better at doing the right acquisition for the right problem, and then understanding the economics, the underlying economics of the industrial base, which gets in what is the motivation of the private sector, other governments, our governments, and let's be thoughtful about it. So that was the essence of it. One of the things that's interesting to me is how interested other countries have been in that strategy. We've had the European Union and NATO have been poring over this strategy, as well as other countries like Australia, and producing their own. I think at the very minimum, it forced a dialogue as to what people meant by the workforce. If you notice in our strategy, or maybe what you don't notice, is it's not got any even whiff of protectionism in it. In fact, it talks about an element of our strategy is what we call production diplomacy. And what our belief is when you get national armaments directors together, they don't mess around talking about nice things like policy people do. They actually get to work on complaining about industry and working together on finding parts, and they actually do things. And so we call it production diplomacy. And I think that is a change. And the reason that I think it's very different is, and why protectionism, while it's still out there, is not the factor, is the worldwide demand for military equipment is up here. It's through the roof. And the supply is here. So if people want to, and I have this conversation all the time with NATO and European Union, our friends around the world, if you want to talk about domestic jobs, we can, but that is an interesting conversation that's not terribly relevant today. So this strategy has allowed us to do it. Now, no strategy is any good if you don't implement it and fund it. And that's what we're in the process of doing right now. And so that's what that is.
Yeah, it's great. Thank you. So Heidi, I'd like to come back to you if I could. You have put out a list of technology areas that are absolutely necessary for the United States to maintain our technological edge, kind of where we started our conversation. I would really appreciate it if you could tell us a little bit about how you came up with that list. How did you curate it? What did it take to get on it? Why are some things left off? Just talk a little bit about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I tell you how I first started when I got the phone call that I'll be coming to the job. I immediately started thinking about it, very deeply thinking about what are the critical things we absolutely must have. Good. Dr. Ash Carter actually called me and said, Heidi, we're living in a pivotal time where the decision that you made will charter the next 30 years what we will do. This is how important it is. I spent a week literally thinking deeply about what the things will mean. I will tell you, I looked at the top 10 critical technology area that the prior administration put out. Okay. So I said, okay, 4 of them are absolutely key. Hypersonics, microelectronics, directed energy, quantum science computing, right? What are the things I would modify? I noticed there was AI and autonomy. But to me, I need trusted AI and autonomy. You can't have autonomy without the AI, and I need the trust. Okay, so I combined the two into one, and it had cybersecurity before. But the way I look at the future, what are the critical technology I will need in the future? I need integrated sensing and cyber combined. So therefore, I focus on integrated sensing and cyber. The other thing is it was C3, command and control communications before. In my mind, thinking about the future, I need integrated network systems of systems. That's what's going to be critical. So I changed that one. And another one, it was space offense and defense. But to me, the space technology is far broader. It's more than just offense and defense. There could be propulsion technology I need for space. So I modified that to be space technology. I added biotech. That is a future emerging technology. I added advanced material because the materials are fundamental layer of everything we do. Advanced computing software. The world is heading more and more software-centric, right? We need to figure out how to create our software so it's less hackable. And we got to figure out if we have multiple nodes within our computing, how do we prevent us using only one node, right, at a time? And we need to think about not beyond 5G. This is why I established a future G, right? And human-machine interface, having better human-machine interface can reduce our tooling, right? To have easier to use like commercial products. And then renewable energy storage, literally that can save lives. And then there was a missile defense I eliminate because all the technology we talked about here is embedded as a part of missile defense. So that was my construct of 1 week of hard thinking.
Very clear. Thank you very much.
And whatever she's trying to develop, I should be controlling if there's a dual use underpinning of that.
Which is so great about having you all together on this panel because it is clearly a nice DoD commerce team. So clearly you all are working very hard to maintain our technological edge. This is a conference full of innovators that want to contribute to maintaining our technological edge, whether it's from academia, government, private industry. I would like to ask each of you in a lightning round, if you had one thing to say to these innovators, what would it be? Bill, I'd like to start with you.
Stick with us. We know we can sometimes be a pain in the neck to deal with. It's worth it. Make sure that we're listening to you. The other piece, and finally, think of the end use in mind. Don't think of the widget. Think of how the warfighter is going to use it at some degree of scale.
Alan.
I also will reiterate Bill's stick with it plan. And also when I come and tell you, really cool thing you just developed, I don't want you to sell it in China. Don't take my head off. Recognize the national security imperative for it. and build it for these guys and for our allies.
Heidi.
I would say absolutely engage with, right? Don't give up on us at all. We are very interested in what you have in terms of your ideas. We can help you to accelerate your ideas into products and help you to accelerate products and scale. We have all the mechanisms now to help you. So please engage with us.
Thank you very much. Thank you for engaging with me, with SCSP, and with the audience. So thank you very much.
Okay.